So this is part 2 of our notes on section 3.1, exponential functions. So for example 2, we want to describe the transformation from the parent graph f of x equals 2 to the x, and then sketch the graph. So the first thing that I've done is I've done a little table that has my parent graph f of x equals 2 of x, because I think that's going to help us. So this is the same as our other transformations. Okay, so we need to look at this graph g of x equals 2 to the x minus 1, and we want to rewrite this in terms of f of x. So hopefully you can see that g of x equals our f of x, which was the 2 to the x minus 1. So hopefully you can see that this is going to be a shift down by 1. So in that case, our x is the same as our original x, right? Here's my original x, my original y, because my input is not changing at all. So this just stays as -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now my y is going to be equal to y sub 0 minus 1. So 1/4 minus 1 is -3/4. 1/2 minus 1 is -1/2. 1 minus 1 is 0. 2 minus 1 is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. So I also think that I had a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. So if that is being shifted down by 1, that means my horizontal asymptote is going to be at y equals -1. So I'm going to graph now. The first thing that I'm going to put in are my tick marks. So I have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I graph -2. So I'm actually going to put in my horizontal asymptote. I feel like that's going to help me. So here's my horizontal asymptote at y equals -1. I have -2, -3/4, -1, -1/2, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. So I can see my domain is -infinity to infinity. Now I can see that my range, the number that I'm getting closer to for my y, is -1 to infinity. I can see that I'm increasing for all x, and I already have that my horizontal asymptote is y equals -1. So this transformation, right, we are using the same procedure we did for all of our other parent functions. The new thing is that our parent function is f of x equals 2 to the x, and we need to get comfortable with creating these tables because we'll have different bases. Okay, let's move on to example 2b. So pause the video, rewrite g of x in terms of f of x equals 2 to the x, and create your table. Okay, so I was able to rewrite g of x as f of x minus 3, which means that I'm going to shift right by 3. So I saw that my input changed to x minus 3. Solving for x, that became x equals x sub 0 plus 3. And my y had no transformation. So my y was equal to my original y. So I just plugged in using my table. -2 plus 3 was 1. -1 plus 3 was 2, and I just went from there. My y values stayed the same. So, thinking about this, my horizontal asymptote, I had no vertical shift, so my horizontal asymptote is still happening at y equals 0. So I'm drawing in that horizontal asymptote. So now at 1, I'm at 1/4. At 2, I'm at 1/2. At 3, I'm at 1. At 4, I'm up at 2. At 5, I'm up at 4. Okay, I can also think if I plug in 0, I would have 2 to the -3, which is 1 over 2 to the third, which is 1/8. So if I wanted to, but I can just see that I get this graph, okay, that approaches our horizontal asymptote at y equals 0, and it goes to infinity on the right. So my domain has not changed. It's still -infinity to infinity. My range did not change. It's still from 0 to infinity. I can see that my graph is increasing for all x. Okay, for our last example, we want to graph g of x equals -2 to the -x. So again, let's write this in terms of f of x. Hopefully you can see pretty quickly that g of x is equal to f of -x. So think for a second, what transformation are you looking for? Your b is -1, so you're looking for a reflection over the y-axis. So take a minute and create your table, draw your graph, and see how much of the domain range increasing, decreasing for all x and horizontal asymptote you can get. Okay, so I found that my original x is now -x. So solving for x, I have the opposite of the original x. So the opposite of -2 is 2, opposite of -1 is 1, opposite of 0 is 1. Similarly for the last two x values. And my y values didn't change at all. I could also see, because I did not have a vertical shift, my horizontal asymptote is going to stay the same. So I plotted my points. I found my domain was still all real numbers. My range was still all positive numbers. And I could see that this graph was decreasing for all x. So I just want you to notice that you already graphed this in example 1b. So our graph is the same as example 1b. So let's think about this for a minute. So 1b was that f of x equals 1/2 to the x. So let's rewrite this. This is 1/2 can be rewritten as 2 to the -1. Laws of exponents say we can multiply. Okay, so we are going to be able to rewrite a lot of our graphs using our laws of exponents so that we can use transformations with a parent function. Okay, as always, please ask if you have any questions. Be well.